up about too big to fail. Let's listen to Governor Romney, what he had to say.
Dodd-Frank was passed, and it includes within it a number of provisions that I think has some unintended consequences that are harmful to the economy. One is it designates a number of banks as too big to fail, and they're effectively guaranteed by the federal government. This is the biggest kiss that's been given to New York banks I've ever seen.
Now, Carl, I think later in that conversation, he mentioned 5 banks. He said there were 5 big banks that were deemed too big to fail. So I kind of was wondering, which 5 banks is he referencing? And I had not heard about it as being 5 specific banks. So I did what everybody does. I went to Google and I said, which 5 banks is he actually referencing? And so I think these were the 5 banks that he was referring to. Let's take a look at that. That would be Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs. And I was a bit confused because, again, I can't say I've read every page of Dodd-Frank, but my understanding was somewhat different. So I asked Mary Thompson, the resident expert here internally, I just asked her over on the set here to confirm what I thought, which is that there's clearly more than 5 banks, given these living wills and the $50 billion of assets litmus test in terms of Dodd-Frank for who has to basically say that if they are to fail, what the exit strategy or the wind down would be. So what I wondered about the debate call is when this came up, and I guess this would sort of go to those that say President Obama didn't seem that prepared or wasn't as prepared as he could have been, because I was expecting some sort of rebuttal in the sense that when he threw out the 5 big banks being too big to fail, clearly there's many more if in fact Dodd-Frank stays in the way it is. So just a quick thing, one thing that I listened to, one thing I thought about, more confused I guess today than I was last night, because I still don't know exactly how many institutions are protected or too big to fail as a result of Dodd-Frank.
Yeah, I think the omission of several comebacks on the president's part is a big topic of discussion today. Yeah. Gary, thanks a lot.
You got a call.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. I mean, on Gary's point, it's an interesting point. There may be 20 banks that are too big to fail, but Romney's thinking about the top 5 banks. But the major point underneath that is those banks get cheaper money because the government stands behind. That's what the market believes. And community banks, which are very politically powerful and do some good, by the way, those banks have to pay up more, and it's harder for them to get credit and therefore to lend. And so what Romney and a lot of Republicans have said all along about Dodd-Frank is you created a 2- or 3-tier credit system, and it's the little guy on Main Street that's getting screwed.
Right. And we hear it every time the community banks are on fire. It's us versus them. Exactly. By the way, welcome to Post 9.